now call the February 2nd, 2021 Finance Committee meeting to order at 6:45. Tonight, we'll start with the chair would entertain a motion for the nomination of a chair.
I nominate Corey Rhoda.
Second.
Council Member Salisbury has made a motion to nominate Corey Rhoda as the chair of the Finance Committee, seconded by Council Member Cox. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion for the approval of the claims.
I'd like to make a motion for consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $207,672,007. Payroll and liabilities for January 15th, 2021 in the amount of $372,743,017 for a total of $580,415,024.
I second it.
Okay, do we have any discussion? None? I do just want to mention it is $580,415.24, not 100,000. If there are
Nervous.
if there is no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Is there anything additional that the committee needs to review or discuss?
No, Your Honor.
We have nothing.
Okay. With that being said, the Finance Committee will stand adjourned at 6:47.
I now call the February 2nd, 2021 regular meeting of the Riverton City Council to order at 7 o'clock. Councilman Bailey will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and the invocation will be given by Councilman Larson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our eternal Heavenly Father, we are thankful for this opportunity to serve and to work for the city of such a great place, Riverton. Father, we would ask that Thou would bless us with insight, understanding that we might do and help those in need of help in our city. This time, Father, we would also ask that we need moisture for the drought. We would ask eternally that Thou would bless us with it. We're thankful for all our blessings, thankful for the fine people that live here in Riverton that we're able to help, and we say this humbly. Name Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Would the city clerk conduct roll call, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Councilman Carla Borders.
Here.
Councilman Lindsay Cox.
Here.
Councilman Mike Bailey.
Here.
Councilman Corey Rhoda.
Here?
Councilman Kyle Larson.
Here.
Councilwoman Christy Salisbury.
Here.
Mayor Richard Gard.
Here. I declare we have a quorum present. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Councilwoman Borders has the motion, and Councilwoman Salisbury has the second. Any council discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Communication from the floor. Anyone in the audience wishing to address the council regarding an item that is scheduled for public hearing will be given the opportunity to speak during that public hearing. Anyone wishing to address the council on another item can speak now. We would ask those individuals who wish to address the council at this time to approach the podium and to identify yourself for the record. Seeing none, would the city clerk please read the consent agenda items by title only?
Yes, Your Honor. Approval of the minutes, January 19th, 2021, regular council meeting. Approval of the minutes, January 19th, 2021, executive session. Approval of the minutes, February 2nd, 2021, Finance Committee meeting. And approval of the Finance Committee recommendations for February 2nd, 2021.
Thank you. Are there any items requiring further discussion?
Mayor?
Yes.
The Finance Committee met tonight and approved the consideration of claims to be paid in the amount of $207,672.07, payroll and liabilities for January 15th, 2021 in the amount of $372,743.17, for a total of $580,415.24.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda item.
So moved. I'll second.
Councilman Larson has a motion and Councilwoman Borders has a second. Any further discussion from the council? Did we do elections today?
Yes, Mayor, I was nominated and elected for the chair of the Finance Committee.
Fabulous. I appreciate that.
And Your Honor. Yes. I'll abstain from the Bailey Enterprises line item on the Finance Committee recommendations.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Consideration of the West Sunset Consultant Selection. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. As you know, the Fix Our Road Citizen Committee was established as an advisory committee to the City Council for the use of 1% monies towards improving the infrastructure of Riverton. On October 12th, 2020, and it's not 2021 as I put in your packet to avoid that confusion. Force unanimously approved the motion to direct staff to advertise a request for qualification to engineer and design improvements related to Sunset Drive between Federal Boulevard and 8th West. As a bit of background information, that section of Sunset exhibits traffic count of about 5,300 daily vehicles. It's classified as a major collector and directly supports a number of businesses and residencies and other core components of our community, which include parks, the hospital, school, and other items as well. Its pavement exhibits various conditions ranging from 44 or 68 on the pavement condition index. City utilities and other utilities lay in the corridor, and there are some sections of city water and city sewer that should be addressed as part of this design project. Additionally, there's an irrigation line that runs through the east and west length of the east-west direction and length of Sunset. That irrigation lateral belongs to both Riverton Valley Irrigation District and LeClaire Irrigation District. Staff began advertising for statements of qualifications from qualified firms. And included in the advertisement, which is also in your packet, you will notice that we listed the description or scope of work that we wanted to have provided by each of these engineering consultants interested in the project. At risk of going a little bit long, I'll explain those to those that are watching. The scope of work or description of work as described in the advertisement included a topographical survey, analysis of pavement and subgrade conditions, and a recommendation for appropriate surface improvements. The same for drainage infrastructure to include curb, gutter, inlets, pipe, etc., and recommend appropriate improvements. Replace existing 8-inch cast iron water main with specific extremities listed in the advertisement or limits of that replacement. The same for an analysis and recommendation to replace a specific length of sanitary sewer along that corridor as well, and those limits were explained in the advertisement. It addressed the Armstrong lateral, or that irrigation lateral, and requested that this firm analyze and provide alternatives to either reline or replace portions or all of the lateral within the section of the project. It also requested that a level of service be performed, level of service analysis be performed for the intersection of North 8th West. As you know, that intersection is highly trafficked, especially at specific times of day, as we have different traffic needs there, specifically around the school transportation. So we want to make sure that that intersection is appropriately analyzed and designed for the improvements to come with construction. The scope also included construction cost estimates, bidding and contract documents, and the work to secure any necessary permitting. That would be in relation to our water and sewer specifically. It also allowed for asphalt coring and analysis or geotech analysis as necessary to determine the appropriate rehabilitation treatments as part of their design. So that is the advertised scope of work or description of work that these consultants had an opportunity to review and propose. On November 17th, 2020, the City Council adopted the new professional service selection policy. This is the first time we've had an opportunity to implement that policy. In brief, and as a reminder, that policy breaks the selection process for professional services into 2 phases. The first phase includes a selection committee that reviews and rates the submittals of qualification against specific criteria aimed to determine a firm's level of qualification. As referenced in the staff report and presentation when that policy was proposed publicly and adopted publicly, it is standard practice to use qualification-based selection when reviewing professional services. That includes engineering. However, at the direction of city staff, we also included a second phase in our selection process. This phase includes an interview committee that allows the interview committee to review the top 3 ranked firms by the selection committee and rate them against specific criteria that relate to their level of qualification. It also allows the interview committee to review the firm's separately submitted fee estimate. This, again, as a reminder, was a request of the City Council so that once the top 3 qualified firms were identified, this interview committee could then further vet the qualifications of these firms and review their price proposal. As you may remember, the desire was to get the best service for the best price. And it allowed us to choose whether we wanted a Cadillac level of design services or, I don't know, a Dodge Ram truck that I drive outside.
We wanted to go that low?
Probably not. Mike Bailey's looked at that truck too, so probably not. So with that being said, and as a reminder of that policy, which we've had the opportunity to, again, use for the first time, SOQs related to the advertisement were received on January 19th. A selection committee was put together. That committee consisted of 2 members of the Fix Our Road Citizen Committee, 2 members of city staff, and 1 member of the City Council. And I won't go through the different criteria, but you have that in your packet. They independently reviewed and rated the submittals of qualification. They also received the exact same instruction and were told to rate based on what was provided by the firm, not to bring any outside bias, meaning previous experience, or previous submittals of the firms. Basically, they were to review the materials in front of them. After receiving that instruction and taking time to, again, independently review and rate, the ratings were combined, and Imberg Miller Engineers rated at 95.4 out of 100 possible. W.H. Smith & Associates, 94.6. James Gores & Associates, 94.6. WWC Engineers at 91.4. And Apex Surveying at 91. Pursuant to the policy I just reviewed, an interview committee was appointed to rate the top 3 rated firms. That was, again, Imberg Miller, WHS, and Gores. Fixed questions were provided to each of these firms in advance of the interview process. These questions were provided so that the process was fair and equitable to all participants involved. The interested firms had almost 5 full days to prepare for the interview process, and again, review the interview packet that was provided to them, and that is in your packet for review as well. Last Friday, we had the opportunity, or the interview committee had the opportunity to interview the top 3 rated firms and rate them against the criteria listed in your packet. That criteria, again, established a way to rate them against their level of qualification. But 20% of their ability to rate them allowed for analysis of their independent fee proposal. Based on the interview process, the interview committee rated W.H. Smith and Associates out of Lander at 89.67 out of 100, Imberg Miller out of Riverton at 86.67 out of 100, and James Gores and Associates out of Riverton at 75.33. Pursuant to the policy, the interview committee recommended to me to provide the recommendation to the city council that W.H. Smith be selected for this project and to direct city staff to begin the negotiation of contract with this firm. Fees related to this service, as you know, are paid from the 1% fund. Currently, there's a balance of just over $2.2 million. After subtracting existing obligations, there's $1.5 million available for this project and subsequent projects. Because the fee proposal was submitted in sealed envelope, we feel that the interview committee felt that it was not appropriate to publish and publicly make known the different fee proposals. However, I provided a scatter plot for you to see what the interview committee saw, and you'll notice that two of the firms were relatively close to each other, and one firm was about 4 times higher in their estimated fee proposal. That was taken into consideration, but only at a weight of 20% against the interview committee's recommendation. After that lengthy explanation, Your Honor, I apologize for that. But since it's the first time we've gone through this policy, I wanted to make sure we take the time to explain it. So with that, city staff recommends that the city council approves the selection of W.H. Smith and Associates as the engineering firm for the Sunset Drive Improvement Project and to direct staff to finalize the scope of work and negotiate a contract for engineering services. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the selection of W.H. Smith and Associates, Inc. as the engineering firm for the Sunset Development Project.
So moved.
Second?
Councilman Bailey has the motion and Councilman Rhoda has the second. Any discussion?
I just have one question. With this being the City of Riverton tax funds, do any of the firms have any advantage being from Riverton, or was that taken into account for any of the process?
Your Honor, Councilwoman, as far as a rating metric, there was not anything specific to the locality of the firm or where they base their business. However, there was a rating component during the selection process that required the firm to exhibit their awareness of local conditions, meaning we wanted to make sure that the firms proposing understood Riverton's conditions, and each of the firms knew that and had the opportunity to make their case as a firm to understand the local conditions.
Kyle?
Your Honor, thanks. I was wondering, I've gone through this and I'm looking at it. Do we have a guesstimate of what the bid is going to be to, I mean, we've got $1,500,000. What do we think that it's going to cost to do what we propose to be done?
Your Honor, at this time, I'm
Or we
hesitant.
can't talk about that right now.
Your Honor, Councilman, I am hesitant to provide that number, and I do that out of fairness to the firms that proposed. But I can say that it is well within our anticipated budget for this engineering project, and I have no concerns as far as the impact on the fund and the ability to move forward appropriately.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, I just have one question as well. So when you get these bids in and we notice that one is, I'm going to say astronomically higher if it's 4 times the price, do we reach out to them at all and inquire or do they break that pricing down? Is that all broke down as to why theirs is so much? I mean, 4 times is pretty huge.
Your Honor, Councilman Rhoda, the interview committee did have a question specific to the fee proposal, and the interviewees had the opportunity, and again had the opportunity to prepare for that opportunity to explain their fee to the committee. They did provide a breakout of the services for the fee total, so the interview committee was able to see how much each firm was anticipating for surveying, for design, for reconnaissance analysis, et cetera, et cetera. Outside of the interview question, to be fair to all firms, we did not reach out to any specific firm to say, why were you at this level, and as opposed to another firm.
That's all, Mayor. Thank you.
Kyle?
Would you say then that this is a learning experience for the engineering people that would bid on with this new process?
Your Honor, Councilman, I'd hate to estimate what a firm feels. I know that they entertain and propose against several advertisements throughout the year. I think these firms are very respected, all of them are, and have a high reputation. They're used to proposing. And all I can say is the same information was provided them in advance of their opportunity to submit.
Okay, thank you.
Some further information is that W.H. Smith and Associates is out of Green River, I believe, and they have a satellite office in Lander, so that puts them in Fremont County. So it is a local purchase for their engineering. Kyle, can you explain to us a little bit of what we would do if we have cost overrides on the cost of our engineering, how we're going to handle that?
Your Honor, if there is any costs that come up in addition to what we negotiate in the contract, that would have to again go into a negotiation and be proposed via a contract amendment. And those contract amendments, depending on the amount, would come to the city council or follow our procurement process and go to the city administrator. So if there was anything unknown that came up in addition to the fee that was negotiated in the contract, it would have to be negotiated again. And to be fair to any consultant, sometimes you have no idea what the condition of X variable is, and it can change the design needs. We've also had instances in the past where the city has realized that it wanted to expand the contract scope, and so we've done that. But there is a control in the sense that they cannot incur extra fees without approval through an amendment.
And what is the level that can be approved by your department and Tony's department before it has to come to council?
Your Honor, by our our procurement policy, my spending limit is $3,000, so anything over $3,000 would go to city administrator. Anything up to $35,000 would be within his spending authority. Any amendments above $35,000 would require that it go before the city council. However, I know Mr. Tolstead has at times said, if this is a significant enough change, we need to bring this towards the city council anyway, even if it is within my spending authority, so that you are up to date. Your Honor, if I may, the other thing I would reference is standard in our contracts, or typical, I should say, in our contracts with engineering firms is a not to exceed price. And so that protects the city. It also, I think, protects the engineering firm. And if it gets to a point where that not to exceed price has to be exceeded, then we would negotiate that.
Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Urban Deer Reduction Program, Charter 56 permit, application of authorization. City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. As council knows, we recently completed, at the end of 2020, the first year of our Urban Deer Reduction Program, which is, you'll hear us call it the 56 permit. 56 permit was applied for. We were authorized 50 deer. We received our permit about a day after the day it was issued, and we had to start building that entire program. So we were a little surprised at the time. The good news is the work that was done still ultimately led to the reduction of 11, or harvesting of 11 deer within the city limits. 9 of those deer were deemed able to be donated after the CWD testing that is required by the state. So following that, we did have a slight reduction. We did manage to do some good work there, and that was presented previously. What you have before you today is we are requesting permission, authorization, for you to proceed with another permit application for the coming year. At this point, we are proposing the same number of deer that we had in the past. However, we will probably attempt to negotiate both the time and the number of deer, depending on what is allowed. We have to, if authorized, we have to complete an additional count. What does that mean? Last year, we had to go and we had to look at people, members of this council, members of our community told us where they saw deer, how many they saw, when they saw them, and then we charted it. And we provided that as one of the requirements to the Game and Fish. Once that was completed and we said, okay, here's what we have, here's what we're applying for, then we were able to actually make the full permit and get it and get it submitted. When it was authorized, we went to work. We did have some donations last year. Habitat for Humanity agreed to donate the processing of 10 animals, up to 10 animals. So we didn't quite get it, but in terms of how many we could process, but we came pretty close, and that was very much appreciated. Ultimately, we only spent about $400 to $500 on hanging of animals. I don't have that exact number, I apologize, but some of the cost breakdown of what it generally costs, or the range of which it costs, is within the staff report that you have before you. This coming year, if authorized, following the count, what we will end up doing is making the application and attempting to negotiate with Game and Fish to determine whether the time that they tend to allow for it, which is the same period of time they allowed this last year, is appropriate. If we can break that, if we can have it at 2 different times, if the number is appropriate. To answer one of the most common questions, why we have to do, we do not know why we have to do another count when we could have taken, when we were under the impression we could have taken the previous count, subtracted 11, and largely still had a good number of deer there. However, as a requirement, we will meet their requirement, keeping in mind that all deer that ultimately are harvested must be, if possible, be donated. They must be tested for CWD prior to that, and we actually end up taking the front 2 teeth for aging on the animals and submit those. Our animal control officer, again, has done an exceptional job of implementing this program and tracking it, and will be working through the full application process with the mayor and I, who have been involved in it to date. So what is requested of you today is authorization to apply for the 56 permit and negotiate the terms thereof. With that, I'd be happy to answer any specific questions. Again, your fee estimates are in the staff report. Additionally, one of the items that we'll have to do, I forgot to mention, is we do have a release form for participants, because we used all volunteers, and a set of rules. Those will be revised to make sure that we're doing it right, that everything is in order, and those will be reviewed by legal counsel prior. We probably, unless directed, we wouldn't bring those back. We would use those as, we would not need to bring those back to you for authorization unless you really want us to. The other items I forgot to answer, and I apologize, is the challenges that we tend to see with this program, and, or you could even call them bright spots, is that we planned to do some of this with employees previously, but that didn't end up working because honestly, everybody has a job and it's a lot of work. And we had some great volunteers that helped us this last year, and we're looking forward to doing that again with volunteers. So as we approve this, or as you consider it, we will be using volunteers, and there is training involved in that. So we're not concerned about that. We had some really great hunters helped us out this last year. The other item is that we ultimately have to have permission to be on the land that we're on. So part of the work is not only the count, but also finding the land and finding the volunteers and getting them trained. That's why we're starting as early as we're starting right now, because we can get everything done, we can advertise it, we can get everything in place, get a couple trainings together and start planning that. Do keep in mind, council, that sometimes these programs, you'll hear about them a lot, or somebody will have something to say about them, and that's good. We want that input. However, do keep in mind you cannot run an urban deer reduction program under this program without actually taking deer within the urban area. They do not allow us to go outside of it. We have requested that. There's a field right across, Mayor, please help me, Riverview, at the bottom of Riverview. And if you could shoot out to the other side of it, you could probably fill 50 within about 10 minutes. And those are the deer that come in and come out. But we are not allowed to exercise that permit outside of the city limits. However, we do recommend that council authorize the application. Your authorization of this application is required in order for us to apply and have it received. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to begin preparations to submit for the Chapter 56 permit application with the Wyoming Game and Fish Department.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Bailey has a motion. Councilwoman Borders has a second. Further discussion.
Mayor, if I may, just to remind me, we had a shortened season last year as well, did we not?
Your Honor.
Yes.
Councilman, yes, we did. We ultimately overlapped with hunting season. We had about, I believe it was about a 2-month period. The challenge with that was in order to get, if this year they gave us 2 months again, we would probably we would have much better numbers to show you in that time period, because a lot of that time was taken up with getting the forms together, getting volunteers, getting the training scheduled, getting all the training, not only the training with Game and Fish, we did 2 of those, in order to make sure that we're in compliance with what they need, to get the coordination with the processing plants and where we could hang those, just getting the volunteers to begin with. So we had a shortened season, not only because they provided us a shortened season, so I think we got the permit the day after it was issued. So there was already a day off of it before we knew we were getting it. So that's not a big deal, but the biggest shortening of that season was in fact that we had all this work to do that we thought we had more time to do. Because we had applied for a much, much larger time frame, and with the anticipation of having to do all these things. But thanks to staff and our animal control officer and everybody just kind of jumping on top of it, we managed to get some success. And to be honest with you, I would have been, when we started it and we got it, I was thinking, wow, if we just get 2 or 3 just to, get familiar with the process. To have 11 and 9 of those being able to be donated, that was a big deal.
Very much. Mayor, so what I was kind of working around there is, I hate to assume, but I think it would be safe to assume that there's a chance we'll get more than 11 this year, because we'll have a longer time span and we've had that training. And I just want to restate that, because I do have a couple of constituents who are mainly between the Wyoming Highway Department and the cemetery right there. They're seeing them quite often. And I just want to assure them that we may not have been able to harvest as many last year or get as many as we anticipated, that we can hopefully anticipate getting some more this year, more than 11, being that we have people trained. We got a pretty good idea of how the whole routine works. So I just want them to rest assured that we're doing our best to try to get those guys off the road there. That is all, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Your Honor, I just wanted to know if Habitat for Humanity has indicated any continued support, or is that just a one-time deal for donation?
Your Honor, if I may.
I didn't hear the question.
I wanted to know if Habitat for Humanity has indicated that they'd continue to maybe support
Hope so.
some of them.
Your Honor, Councilwoman, I believe they have. However, I don't have that. Don't have that confirmed. They were very generous, and my understanding is they're going to continue to be as well.
The other 2 deer were tested positive, and those had to be disposed of. And so the Game and Fish numbers, they thought it might be as high as 50% that would not be able to be donated. So we're really quite fortunate, and we have some other, if we do this right, we have some other places like Eagles Hope that might be able to take a larger amount of the product if they want that, and others that would possibly fit into that. Corey, what you might mention to your constituency that have been talking to you, one of the hardest things about this program is making sure we're on city limits property.
Approved.
Well, we have to be inside the city limits to shoot. And so that in its nature is a problem, because that's always tight, right? And so if they have a spot that we could, if people that are watching or people that are interested in reduction, if they have animals on their property, if we can work with them, we can use bows, and we're trying to use low caliber weapons. And this year we didn't have those, but we might have some silencers that we could use next year if we're fortunate, and that will help. And so if you do have a location and deer that are bothering you, if you'd work with us, we would try to set up a safe zone where we could help you eliminate those animals. And we could also, if you had property and you wanted a specific hunter to do that, we can get that hunter and ask him to go do that and get him all set up with all the paperwork with the Game and Fish. Those hunters have to be approved by the Game and Fish. So we would try to accommodate any wishes that the public have. Tony?
Your Honor, one additional item is that with the 56 permit, and I forgot to add this, some of the rules that you generally govern hunting during hunting season, so baiting, spotlighting, those types of items are suspended. Why? Because take baiting, for instance, well, the idea is to reduce the deer population within the area, and you can get some other benefits with regard to donation, but ultimately the first goal is to reduce the deer population. In doing so, bringing them into the areas that are safer, we will probably employ that tool this year probably more than we did in the previous year. There's a couple of areas that become very, very safe as soon as you can actually bring deer into them. So we will use some of those means, but we'll try to be as least invasive as possible.
Tony, we don't have a public hearing associated with this. Will we later have a public hearing, or?
Your Honor, it's my understanding that if council, what we did last year, I do not believe we had a public hearing. I'll have to go off of memory, but I do not believe so. I believe simply council's minute authorization per vote will constitute, and the normal advertisement will constitute the needs, will meet the needs of the Game and Fish.
Okay, thank you.
It's not an ordinance, right?
No.
It's just, all we had was one person last year.
This is just an application to do that work. And we had 4 shooters last year. So, and we could use more shooters, for the people in the audience, and we have to have very capable and qualified, and we don't have, you can't shoot without a spotter. Spotter's there to make sure what you're shooting at is clear and no obstructions behind that, and you just can't go out and do it on your own. You have to have that spotter to go with you. Okay? And for the public, with this permit, no one's authorized to shoot animals in the city limits. Just because Riverton has this permit, it's not giving anybody any credence to shoot any animals that aren't approved.
These
Correct,
are
Chief?
solely deer, right?
Only deer. Haven't seen any elk in town, but if we do, we might. But yeah, it's just a deer right now. And so Chief helps us with that, and he helps control that, and the animal control officer is fabulous. Shannon does an unbelievable job of helping and making sure that works with the Game and Fish. And they've been timely in getting back the information. And so we even get a few sick animals taken care of a little bit more humanely. So I think there's a lot of benefits to it. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Consideration of the airport lease amendment for Brunton. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Brunton has had a long-standing lease up at the terminal. Basically, they've had a freestanding display that's in the common area, and then they've also had 2 wall displays where they've been able to display their products. Recently, they've decided that they no longer need the 2 wall displays and would only like the floor display. So this action basically allows the lease to be changed to meet their current needs and desires. Unfortunately, the previous lease did not have a clause to amend the lease, and so my recommendation would be to terminate the existing lease and then to enter into a new lease agreement, and that agreement is in your packet as well as the old one. With the reduced space, the Airport Enterprise Fund will lose about $230 by doing this action. Thank you, Your Honor.
Any questions? Well, let me do this right, so Kristen doesn't have to scold me. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, or the amendment to the I better get on the right one. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the Brunton Corporation lease for the terminal space at Central Wyoming Regional Airport.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Rhoda has the motion and Councilman Bailey has the second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Consideration for airport lease amendment for the Fremont County Museum. Public Works Director's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. About a year ago, Fremont County Museum System came to the airport board and also to City Council requesting space in the terminal to display a number of items. In your packet, there is a photo that depicts the area that they did lease. At that time, Brunton was occupying both of the wall display cabinets just adjacent to the area that they leased. Due to staff turnover, the impacts of the pandemic, and some other issues, the museum had not yet had the opportunity to improve the area that they leased nor put up any of their displays. However, the museum system, which does represent Du Bois, Lander, Riverton, basically the whole Fremont County area, re-expressed interest in occupying space in the terminal. Megan Ostrenga, and I hope I said that right, is in the audience. She is the current Riverton Museum site manager. She came and presented to the airport board on January 15th and requested space in both of the recently vacated Brunton wall cabinets, and then also wall space above the baggage claim area. Her presentation that was provided to the airport board was in your packet, and if you'd like, I'm sure we could go through that as well if you choose. After her presentation, the airport board unanimously passed a motion recommending the City Council amend its current lease with Fremont County Museum System to add the 2 wall cabinets and the wall space above the baggage claim area. Currently, City of Riverton leases space at about $18 a square foot. However, the city also utilizes a non-commercial rate for community-based entities. That rate was applied a year ago when the lease was approved with the museum system, and it would apply today, and that's for $1 a year. The reason for that is this entity is not marketing any services for a business. They're simply providing information about our area to those that frequent the terminal. There are some alternatives for you to consider, and I want to make sure you make note of those. Since the meeting and action of the airport board, there have been other business entities and community entities that have expressed interest in the recently vacated wall display cabinets that Brunton had. These entities were told about the recommendation of the airport board, but they also understood that it would ultimately be your decision as a council this evening as to whether or not that space would be leased to the museum or if that space would be amended. So as staff sees it, council, you have the opportunity to approve the lease as it is proposed, and that's consistent with the airport board's action. Or you could reduce the space in this lease amendment and basically lease one of the wall cabinets instead of both of them. that way you could free up one of the cabinets for either this business entity or a community entity. You obviously have the ability to reduce the lease so that it doesn't include the baggage claim area if that's what you choose, or you can choose not to approve the additional space and allow the museum to use the space they currently have. There will be no budget impact related to this action. Again, it'll still remain $1 even though they're occupying more space in the terminal. And with that, Your Honor, I'll yield the floor to you. And again, I do know Megan is here, and she'd be very happy to answer any questions you may have as a governing body.
Okay, who gets the $1?
Your Honor, that's a question, I think, for our finance director.
Mia?
Your Honor, the $1 will be credited to the airport fund.
Oh, good. That should make it work. Let me read this and then we'll have discussion. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the Fremont County Museum System lease for the terminal space at the Central Wyoming Regional Airport.
So moved.
Second.
Councilwoman Borders has the motion. Councilman Bailey has the second. Further discussion?
Your Honor.
Yes, Mike.
For Kyle, so you said there are other people interested in leasing space. Do they have any specifics on how much space they would want or need? And I guess, you know, it'd be nice to have multiple offerings up there, I guess, so.
Sure. Your Honor, Councilman, one of the entities, and this is a business entity, similar to Brunton, would like to occupy one of the wall displays. That would fit their needs. The other entity is Hot Springs County and Hot Springs County Museum, and they would like just a space to display some of their artifacts and other items. They've also expressed interest in a wall display. However, at the time of the airport board, they did not have their proposal finalized, so we anticipate them coming to the airport board this month. In communication with Hot Springs County, they actually have freestanding display cases that could be put in the common area as well. So they had a little bit less of a specific need. They just want to put they just want some space, is what I should say. The business entity was very clear that they wanted one of the display cabinets.
And I guess follow up, so as a business, what would they pay for one of those cabinets?
Another $1.
No.
Oh, $1,800.
Your Honor, Councilman, currently as it stands, that rate is approximately $18 a square foot. However, maybe this is an appropriate time to mention that that rate applies to whether you're occupying floor space or wall space. And so in discussion with Paul Griffin, we plan to bring this item to the airport board at the next meeting and discuss whether it's appropriate to have a different rate for a wall display versus a floor display, or even an office, quite frankly, because it's just based on that square footage. So that was a very long answer to say right now it's $18, but we do plan on reviewing that at the upcoming airport board.
Any other questions?
Your Honor, would that affect what Megan's planning on doing? I mean, how would that affect your display, or would she be able to answer?
Your Honor and Councilwoman, I can talk loud. I taught high school. Your Honor and Councilwoman, we could adjust our display cases. Currently, what we have planned is to have both cases display local Riverton military objects, specifically from the Air Force, because it does relate to the airport, but also to Riverton as well. So our current plan is to use both of them, but we can reduce the number of objects if you also choose. So. Thanks.
Mike?
So, Your Honor, thank you. Megan, if you took both display cases and a month or two later we had somebody wanting to rent one of the cases, would that be a big inconvenience, or would you rather know now that you're going to get one case instead of two?
I would, Your Honor and Councilman, I would rather know now, But of course, I can be flexible with what you want.
Megan, would you state your name for the audience in the television?
Yes, I'm Megan Ostrenga. I'm the site manager at the Riverton Museum.
Thank you. Any other questions? My concern would be this, is if the others don't come through and we have some empty space for even a period of time, who wants an empty space? And we're not passing up a lot of, even $18 a square foot for a wall cabinet. Or are you gonna measure the front of the cabinet or the depth of the cabinet? And
Your Honor, just-
wall space, the same problem, right? And so it isn't gonna be a revenue guide, but I would like to have that opportunity. You say that Thermopolis has some floor units that they could use. So it would really be nice, in my opinion, to have Hot Springs in there with their displays. If they could use floor displays like the Brunton displays have. And then I would like to make sure we have all of that space used as advertising and show what we can do at the airport. We're doing really good numbers up at the airport, and you gotta wait a long time to get on the plane. So we need some information there for people to feel like that's interesting. So my proposal would be simply to allow the Fremont County Museum to take over the space, and then we could come back and amend if the business comes in and is desirable. Either we put some more floor displays back in, or we ask for the 2 wall cupboards back. Does that make sense? It's only $1, I realize. But if the council got the dollar, I would make a better choice, but airport's gonna get it. So I just think it would be a smart thing to move forward and get that space taken up, especially if it's Riverton Air Force memorabilia. That would be a fun thing to. How often would you freshen up your display?
Right now, I don't have the plan for when I would refresh it, but I believe the lease was for 3 years. I would try to refresh it when I can. Obviously, I have the museum to refresh as well. So when I can, I'll try to add objects and photos and whatnot.
And Councilman Bailey already inferred that to you. Would that be something that you could be amended to if we have a company come in and need those cupboards back, that we could make arrangements for that?
Yes, sir, Your Honor.
Okay. Kyle, does that work for you?
Your Honor, I'm happy to go with whatever you choose.
Do we need to amend this motion that we have in front of us to
I think we're good with what we have.
cover?
Is that business not ready now?
Is that business ready?
Your Honor, I received an email just last week. The individual tied to the business, it's not, I shouldn't keep it a secret, it's Maven. They were going through the terminal and they just noticed that it was open. So I received an email, but it's just been a short amount of time.
And I think if they approach us, we can move and work. We'll do our best. I just would like you to have the biggest opportunity to make that display.
Thank you.
So let's go with that. Kristen, do we need to amend here anything? You're all right with the wording?
I don't believe so, Your Honor. The motion on the table is to amend the Fremont County Museum System lease for terminal space at Central Wyoming Regional Airport.
Appreciate that. Everyone that is in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thanks, Megan. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Now, this is what we've all been waiting for, and that's the quarterly fiscal health report. And we have the best department head that does that. So the finance director, could we have your report, please?
Thank you, Your Honor. Plug in and see what we get here.
No one else brought us pie charts.
Aye.
Pie.
We like pie.
Charts.
Your Honor, in the interest of social distancing, I'm requesting removal of my mask, if I may.
Yeah, please do.
Thank you. I am here to report the second quarter results. And actually, the results that I'm providing are for a period beginning July 1st through December 31st of 2020 of our city budget and our finances, give you an idea of where we're at right now. For the members of our audience and for the benefit of some of our newer council members, I may go into a little bit of history regarding our funds. This fiscal year, the governing body did approve a final fiscal year budget of approximately $26.6 million. And our finances are built by fund. So we have the general fund that consists of a lot of the tax-supported activities of the city. Some of the departments that are included in the general fund include the mayor and council administration. We've got IT, our parks and recreation, our fleet maintenance department, community development, streets and alleys. Did I say IT? To name a few, weed and pest. So there's a lot of funds that are included in that. The general fund is the primary operating fund of the city, and it's makes up 44% of this year's total budget, with the remaining 56 derived from the other funds, which would include our water, our sewer, our sanitation fund, and our airport fund. Total funds budgeted for the general fund, let's move to the slide, and I presented you in your package, you should have slides that give a breakout of each of the funds. So for the general fund, the total budget was $8,081,000. Again, city staff was very conservative in budgeting for the general fund this year, and it is a decrease of $3.27 million, which is 28.9% of what our budget was last year. And we did budget transfers of $320,000 from reserves for operations this year. The amounts referenced on the slides presented include operational and capital revenues and expenditures, as well as any budget transfers. So if you're looking down at the bottom line on this particular slide, it shows that our our revenues exceeded our expenditures by $551,410. Last year's variance for this same period, we were at a deficit of about $337,000. So it's about an $800,000 swing. Part of what contributes to that is that we were spending a lot of money in the general fund to help offset the costs of some of the North Federal reconstruction in the Eastern Shoshone Business Park project last year, which we wrapped up, and we're not incurring as many costs on that. We've just got a few wrap-up things this year. The next slide, this one is just our general fund revenue highlights. So this is where we're sitting year to date with some of our revenues. Our property tax revenues were actually up $27,000 or 7% over where we should be at 50% through the year. Our sales tax were up $673 of where we should be at 50% of the way through the fiscal year. And you can see that our use tax is also up 39%. Gas and special fuel taxes collectively are up approximately 9%. One thing that we are seeing a dip in right now at this point in the fiscal year, halfway through the year, is that our franchise fees are down about $45,000, which is about 6% of a decrease of where we should be sitting. However, it's important to note, so our franchise fees include Charter Communication or Spectrum, it's Quest, Black Hills Energy, Rocky Mountain Power. And with those, Black Hills Energy and Rocky Mountain Power, we largely see an increase in those revenues during the early spring, late winter, early spring. So while it's down a little bit right now, I'm not in a panic about it because we should be seeing a surge of those coming in sometime in the next couple months. So our next fund is the airport fund, and the total budget for the airport fund is $1.7 million. Of that figure, $1.1 million is allocated to capital purchases and improvements. The airport did close the second quarter with a budget deficit of about $234,000. Comparatively, this fund reflected a deficit of $67,512 for the same period last year. However, the city's been awarded a 4-year grant in excess of $1,056,000 in federal CARES Act funding to offset some of the costs associated with our operations. And city staff did request a reimbursement of $174,000, which was received after the close of the quarter. And I do have another pending reimbursement to go out for that CARES Act funding, so I'm confident that we will we will exceed this number, of course, coming through the next quarter. Another operational reimbursement request is forthcoming. And as well, our airport capital projects are largely supported by CARES Act funding and grant reimbursements as well. So it's just a matter of timing what we're seeing on this, the closeout of this fund for this quarter. And I do expect that we'll come back on that. So our deficit is $234,566 in that fund. The next fund that we have is the water fund, and again, for the benefit of some of our listeners, our viewers, and then also for our new council members, our water fund, our sewer fund, and our sanitation fund are all considered separate standalone funds, so we don't commingle any of our money from each of those funds or the general fund within the others. So the money that we use to operate on those specific funds are what we collect in user fees from our utility bills and our utility services. So the total budget for the water fund is $7 million. It's a $2.8 million increase over last fiscal year. It's a 69.1% increase. And the reason behind that is that we have completed or working on the completion of the final phase of the Riverton water supply project. City staff did budget $4.2 million to complete that project this year. $3.2 million of it is grant and loan funded, and then the other $1 million is funded from our cash and our reserves that we've budgeted for. We budgeted for cash and reserves. Collectively, the balance on the contractor and engineering contracts to complete the project right now is $500,930, so we're almost done with this project. And it's been going on for 10 years, so we're really, really excited to get those big files out of our file cabinet. At this point, the city's obligation to the project has been fully offset with cash that's available in our water fund. We have not made any transfers from reserves, and we're hoping to not have to do that this year. But right now, the difference, we are running at a deficit balance of $382,000. Again, we have grant and loan reimbursements outstanding that will still be forthcoming in this next quarter as well. Okay, the total budget for the wastewater fund is $2.3 million, and this is a decrease of $216,000 from prior fiscal year. Our revenues did exceed our expenditures in this wastewater fund this year. Last year, the second quarter closing balance was a negative $131,000. As a reminder, last year the sewer fund realized large expenditures from the North Federal Reconstruction Project and the East Bell Sewer Replacement Project. Most of the capital projects that are budgeted in this fund are for improvements for our aging wastewater treatment plant this year. And city staff did budget a transfer to our reserves of $57,661. So we're hoping to close the year with that figure, and we'll be able to move that money into our reserves. For our sanitation fund, the total projected budget is just slightly in excess of 2.5. This fund reflects an increase of $46,000 over the prior fiscal year. This was mainly to fund the purchase of a new sanitation truck, which we have historically been able to do out of our cash in our sanitation fund, and we are hoping to do that again this year. At quarter end, our revenues did outpace our expenditures by $470,000, but a good $300,000 will be the cost of a sanitation truck. Last year, during this same period, the fund closed with a balance of $219,000. The large variance this year is a result of funds received from our insurance company to help replace the tub grinder in the truck that was burned in last year's fire. And the sanitation fund will incur a large unbudgeted expense of approximately $600,000 to replace the tub grinder unit and a tractor. And additionally, the council did approve the emergency purchase of a 7.5-ton overhead crane to replace our 40-plus-year-old crane, and that expenditure is not reflected in this budget as of yet. So we will likely have to address those concerns in a mid-year budget amendment, but our sanitation fund is very healthy, and we feel that we can absorb the cost for those expenses. Our airline minimum revenue guarantee fund. So the air service fund is primarily funded by the city of Riverton, as well as some of our local entities, including the city of Lander. We also receive reimbursements from the state of Wyoming. We are invoiced quarterly from WYDOT for air service. As of the close of the quarter, we had not received any invoicing from the state. However, we did receive an invoice in January, and it was for a big $31,000, which is significantly less than what we've paid when we were receiving air service through Key Lime. those weekly invoices were running approximately $31,000. So our air service is really doing very, very well. Secondly, the half-cent tax initiative that was passed on the ballot will help us with absorbing some of the costs for air service going forward. So at the close of the second quarter, the air service fund budget reflects a positive balance of $296,750. So we're looking pretty good there right now. Does anybody have any questions for me regarding the status of our financial condition right now?
Thank you, Mia. You do a good job of that. Appreciate it. Kyle?
Kyle, where are we on our tub grinder?
Your Honor, I do not have a most up-to-date update for that, even though I said update twice in that sentence. I would be happy to look into that and provide you a separate email and get that to you.
Circle back to that.
Absolutely.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mia. Appreciate it. So we're down to number 14, and it's scheduling discussion for contract services, council goal session, and budgeting calendar. City Administrator's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. You have before you a proposed budget calendar for the coming year. What we did this last year was something a little bit new. As we invite all of council to the different meetings, if you can attend, we have to provide notices of quorum. In order to do that, we provide a budget calendar to you in advance for your approval, and that allows for us to notice the media appropriately. Now, not everybody comes to all of the meetings, and that's normal, and there are a lot of meetings that we have. But the big ones that we have here are set up in order to make sure that the information, before you get it, if you're very interested in a particular item or a particular topic, that you can attend. You can ask questions as it comes about. The first item that we would draw attention to is the community service contracts. As you know, the City of Riverton provides money to community groups that provide services throughout the community. This is our recreation, PAWS, et cetera. There's a number of those. Council it is proposed for that to begin advertising on the 16th. As we did last year, what we'll end up doing is having it be videos submitted and those reviewed, and then council will have to meet and decide how these different items are cut up a little, how the money that we have provided is cut up, and that's a discussion that we've had in past years. And additionally, the items are distributed in March for budget worksheets. Some of these are internal, so those are distributed within city staff. Ultimately, at the end of this, city staff will provide you a recommended budget, and we will provide a presentation with all the fund details, but you are able to take part in it. Items such as capital project planning, one-on-one meetings, and the like are set up and told you, so when it's meant to tell you when we're going to actually be having these meetings. A particular item of note is council work session for community service contracts is proposed for April 13th. That is some of that cut-up time that we would have to actually look and say where different items are prioritized. Traditionally, we do that not on the dais, but in
In a work session.
the work sessions. So that allows us something to provide and more conversational. Sorry, I'm trying to get my words out right. Revenue projections, final budget worksheets, as you can see, are all contained herein. What we're proposing for you now is we ask for your consideration and approval of the proposed budget calendar. There is the possibility that this could change. If it does, we do bring that forward and we do provide the information for you, either by email or the like. If there are meetings where we're going to have that are significant that you're going to be at, we also would end up having to call the media again, and we do that. The final discussion, city council work session for final discussion prior to the public hearing is in May. And the adoption ultimately is in June, and the handout dates are those. Part of the reason we tell you this is that a lot of the estimates that we're going to be doing, just as we walked right into the COVID situation last year about the time we were putting this together, a lot of those numbers are going to change. We're lucky that some of those numbers we're seeing right now with the legislature, so at least we know what we're walking into. But as we're ultimately always asking or attempting to estimate our revenues and our expenditures more than a year out of what it will ultimately be, which is why you have, as Mia Harris denoted, budget amendments, up or down. We're going to have those. Those are not, and at the end of this is also a consideration of your fiscal year 21 budget amendments. That's at the end of the year where we kind of line everything up and show exactly where things needed to be. With that, Your Honor, I'd happily answer any questions, but we are proposing that the proposed budget schedule be approved, and we'll happily answer any questions or make modifications as you see fit.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the budget calendar as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Larson has a motion, and Councilwoman Cox has a second. Further discussion? Some of these are long meetings, and they've got to be, and we need everybody's input, especially on contract services. That works a whole lot like District 25's process that many of us are aware of, where applications are put in, and we usually have more requests than we have money. And right now, the legislature's in session, and if the Senate File 64 continues through, we'll end up with about $370,000 less than what we're counting on. And so that's a big chunk of money that we'll have to make arrangements, and we'll need everybody's help to get to that point. Council goals we can do fairly quickly and easily. We've amended that over the years. And the budget calendar, staff controls that rather well, and yet we need your input. If you have some things that you have concerns with and don't like, we need input. We gotta have that input. So they'll get us the dates, and we'll have to clear our schedules and try to be useful at that point. So,
Your Honor, I apologize. We are, at the upcoming work session, we are intending to talk about your goal setting and to review the goals that we've had for the last year, some of the successes and challenges that we've had, and then discuss that as well. If, with that input, we would then turn around and bring the goal setting, the actual goals for approval at the following council meeting. That allows us to consider those as part of this goal. So if you say, hey, we really want to focus on technology, and particularly these technological items that we hear you say, then we can start looking at that as part of the budgeting process and see where we can fit it in. Or we can have an honest conversation at the budget time and say, we would really like to do this and we'll seek grants or the like, but we can't fit it in, and here's why. So it gives us the ability to communicate a little better. As many of you, all of you, have other responsibilities and other scheduling, we also appreciate any, if there's something you can't make or a question you have throughout the process, as the mayor pointed out, emails help us track that, because then we can say, okay, did we answer this question? Did we answer that question? And it provides better information on the end. So we do encourage any emails that you have with questions or particular desires to see, so we can at least account for it. Thank you, Your Honor. Sorry.
thanks, Tony. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. Consideration of broker for authorization letter to solicit employment health service, health insurance proposal. City Clerk's report, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Staff was recently contacted by IMA Incorporation which is a commercial insurance and employee benefits broker who is interested in soliciting proposals for our employee health insurance coverages on behalf of the City of Riverton. The city has not formally solicited proposals for health insurance in at least 10 years, if not longer. It should be noted that staff is not unhappy with our current providers. We are just continually seeking opportunities to find the best insurance options for our employees while maintaining long-term stability. For reference, in calendar year 2019, the City of Riverton and its employees paid nearly $1.8 million in health and dental insurance premiums, and our paid loss ratio was only 67.7%, meaning our premiums outpaced our claims by nearly 30%, and that's 30% of 1.8 million. The timing of this opportunity falls right in line with our annual budgeting preparations, as well as with the renewal opportunity with our current providers. Staff is requesting council's approval for the mayor to sign a letter which would give permission to IMA Inc. to solicit health insurance proposals on behalf of the City of Riverton. The permission letter would only remain in effect for no more than 6 months and is limited in scope to marketing and proposal review and negotiation activities only. And as far as budget impact goes, at this point, there is not any fee associated with seeking these proposals. There's not any guarantee that the proposals would generate a variance from our current premiums, but if it is the desire of the council for us to solicit those proposals, staff will review the data for responsiveness and present the combined information to council for further consideration if applicable at that time. So at this point, I don't have anything else to add. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion for approval of the mayor signing a broker of authorization, a BOA, to solicit health insurance proposals.
So moved.
Second?
Councilman Larson has the motion. Councilman Rhoda has the second. Further discussion? Kyle?
The waste district over in Lander went about that, and they saved, I don't have figures on that, but they were quite happy with that proposal. And, 30%, I know Mike and I'd like to get some action like that. But I think it's a wise opportunity to test the water, and it will not cost you a thing to find out if you've got good or not good health care, because you look at the population matrix, and they're not in my age bracket. And so that seems to benefit the premium holder. And I'm all for it. I think that's a great idea.
Anyone else? Mike?
Your Honor. Kristen, I guess, what does IMA get out of this deal? If they're not going to charge a fee, what's their reason for doing this?
Your Honor, Councilman Bailey, they reach out, it's anticipation that we would, if we do make a change, that we would use them as our broker, similar to how we use WebT currently as our broker for our health insurance. There's no cost associated with it. They're just simply collecting the data. We provide our census of our employees and what insurance coverage they currently have, and then that gives the insurance companies something to work off of to get us that information.
So IME would be the broker that would they would be the middleman, and they would go out and solicit bids from multiple companies to supply us insurance.
Correct.
Okay.
Are they compensated through the successful insurance company?
You know, I don't know how that works yet. I think each contract is very different. So if it comes to that, after we get their proposals from the insurance companies and we do decide if we want to move that way, they would of course have a contract for us to review before we make any decisions.
Mike?
I guess it would be interesting to me to take so we don't use them currently, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess it would probably also be wise to ask our current insurance provider to do the same. Or do we have to designate one only to do this?
Your Honor,
Yes.
Councilman Bailey, we're actually in the time frame for them to give us our renewal. So we will be receiving that either the end of February or beginning of March is when we usually get our renewals. So essentially, they do that every year for us, but it's just with them.
Okay.
Sounds like a man that has lots of employees. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passed. We're down to reports for the council and roundtable. Carla, could you lead us off?
Absolutely, Your Honor. I'd be happy to. I've attended 2 of the rec board meetings, and we're currently processing the applications and determining an award, so that's pretty interesting for me. Let's see, what else? Community engagement, I wasn't able to make the first meeting because we were double booked that night for rec board. So I believe we have an upcoming meeting on Monday next week. I don't really have anything else to report. I just want to ask the community for prayers for the Watson family. They're really needed, and I think they all have a place in our heart, so I'd just like to ask for some prayers for them.
Thank you. That's a good idea. Lindsay?
I haven't been to any meetings since our last council meeting, so I don't have anything to report at this time.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Mike?
The same. I have not had any meetings since our last council meeting, so. It's already February. Here we go.
Corey?
Yeah, Mayor, I just want to expand a little bit on Councilwoman Borders with the rec board. We actually had 22 applicants this year, which is a couple more than we had last year. At first, we thought we were going to have less, but we had a couple come in at the last minute. So it's pretty exciting to see the things that are in the works right now. And I don't want to give everybody's ideas or anything away, but there's some really neat stuff coming up. I do also want to remind everybody that Fremont County School District Rec Board, there is a beautification grant through them as well, and we do still have funds. So if you're looking for any kind of beautification project in Riverton, please come see us. We've got that money. That's what it's for. We want to put it to use here in the community. The only other thing I have, Mayor, February 20th, the Rendezvous Games are going to be at City Park. I believe there's already 3 or 4 teams registered. I might be overshooting there, but I'm a very ambitious guy. So I'd like to see a couple more, and I'm sure we will. But I just wanted to remind everybody, February 20th at City Park, we will have those Rendezvous Games. They changed the schedule up a little bit. It's going to start a little bit later in the afternoon. I think it starts at about 1 this year. The 8 o'clock might have been too early for a couple contestants. So I hope to see everybody there. And Mayor, that's all that I have right now. Thank you.
Would, Councilman Rhoda, would it be possible for the community engagement to apply for that beautification grant through this?
Yeah, as long as it fits the guidelines, they can, yes.
Could you two guys carry that back and see if there's something that, that we could beautify a certain area and see if we can get the community behind that and request some of those funds? I think last year it went unused.
Yes.
Also.
These are, I believe, funds that rolled over from last year because they did not all get used.
So let's brainstorm a few ideas that we could do, even if it's enhancement to, I like baseball, softball. Did you see all the geese on the softball fields this morning? I think they moved in. We ought to charge rent. If you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Okay?
Charge rent?
No, don't charge rent. Let's just see if we can come up with some ideas to make that work.
You'd have to know where to send the bill.
Canada.
Is that
Yes,
certain-
there are. Yeah. I can forward them to you. I don't have the list right in front of me, I apologize, but there are requirements and restrictions for what it can be used for and things of that nature.
Kyle?
Yes, I attended two boards, Fremont County Solid Waste and the Airport Board. And Fremont County proposed or stated that the Shoshone landfill would be closed at the end of January. Not really sure if they met that. But the thing that I'm more interested in is that they estimate $800,000 in closure funds. And so they currently have $21,183,819 in the piggy bank. And so 800,000, I'm kind of interested to see where that disperses out. Anyway, the second thing was the Central Wyoming Airport that we have. And I really appreciated the Fremont County Museum coming in, but I'm not satisfied with that airport. I mean, we have a gold mine up there, and we're treating it as a stepchild. And so, in talking with Tony and Kyle, I really feel that we need to go to the different entities that we're servicing, Hot Springs County, Washakie County. I'm told, I'm not sure, that Jackson Airport will be shut down this summer for
That's
whatever. I don't even care.
Runway replacement.
But our airport is available, and we need, if it's a Central Wyoming, then we need Central Wyoming represented there. And so I've been up there, and for some reason, I don't see a picture of Du Bois up there at all. And I don't see anything around showing that it's central. And so we need to get buy-in from all the communities that's servicing. Now, I know Mike and I have flown that, and that is so great to come in, whether it's late or early, and be able to get to where you're going in Riverton in no time. But with that, if we develop that airport, that is a solution to a lot of our problems. We only have 3 problems in Wyoming: jobs, jobs, and jobs. And we need those, and that's a great chance to get us to where we want to be. So that's all I had.
Thank you. Christie?
I have not attended any meetings since last time either. I do have a chamber meeting on Thursday. I will bring up your suggestions, Kyle.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tony?
Thank you, Your Honor. As I mentioned earlier, we are planning a work session for next week, so a week from tonight. The time is proposed at 6 p.m. Will that, we have a couple items on there. Will that work for everybody?
That works for me.
Okay.
That's fine, Your Honor.
Ladies, you're good?
If that's the case, then we will, oh, sorry.
Rory?
Yes, sir.
You
We'll be
may.
there. Yes, sir.
How about you 2 heavy loads with your phones out?
I'm good, I'm changing it right now, so I don't forget.
Okay. 6 o'clock is the time. I think that's good, Tony.
Thank you, Your Honor. The next item is that recently, everybody knows about the EDGE Committee, and some of the work that's been going on. That committee has met 3 times now. Most recently, they approved the application for EDGE funding and have directed us to go out and to release that, and that has been done. So on the city's Facebook page, on the city's website, you can find the application. They are accepting initial applications for funding consideration associated with the Halfson Economic Development Fund. The The application also has a couple additional questions that the committee wanted to ask. Those questions are geared off of both the AG's opinion as well as the ballot language to make sure that it helps align those applications with the funding availability. One of the things that we are still working on, and we're getting closer, is how both that board and then ultimately council can allocate or commit funds and when they can do that. We're trying to make sure that that we're not stepping over any lines, that we're being very diligent with that. However, those are due on March 31st. And then they'll start to review them after that. So we have a little bit of time, but we're trying not to wait till everything is done, everything is absolutely perfect, and then go and release it and give people the opportunity. So we want to make sure that we're keeping that moving. The county commissioners are also reviewing, as well as Land, are also reviewing their standards, and we would probably, we would consider those documents and their thought processes along as we develop ours. One of the nice things about this entire process is that we can look to our neighbors and see what's working, what's not working, what ideas they have, and we can share that, and we will continue to do so. But if anybody is interested, those are out on our website. They are provided. The entire application packet is provided for us. And all questions can be posed either to me directly via phone, or we set up a new email account for EDGE related business, which is just EDGE, all capital EDGE, at rivertonwy.gov. And that account is monitored. And so if there's any questions, anything anybody wants to know, or any pieces of information that need to be provided, we're happy to use those means. So we look forward to that. Your Honor, Force is on Monday at the regular time, which 11. It'll be here in City Hall. Again, Councilman Rhoda reminded us of the rendezvous games. You can sign up at City Hall. We're happy to help with that. Please let us know if you'd like to be on a team or sponsor a team. We're looking forward to getting some good participation there. And Kyle Butterfield, our Public Works Director, being as quick as he ever is, has an answer to the tub grinder question, which is that the tub grinder was delayed, the engine was delayed due to, it's denoted as COVID-19, most likely manufacturing delay, and we are currently expecting an April delivery. So if that's turnaround, that's fast turnaround in information.
What is the quarantine time on an engine?
It depends on the horsepower, Your Honor. This one's a little bit.
Oh, there we go. Is that all?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you.
Or Tony, and for those new members, he mentioned the AG's report. That's the Attorney General's report from the state of Wyoming, and he has an opinion out there of how we can spend the half-cent money, and so we have to comply with that. So that's where that's headed. I did attend the FTAG meeting, which was in Shoshone, and Tony went. He got lunch, and I was late. I didn't. So he ate mine, I think. But
It was good.
we all got mushrooms as we were leaving from the mushroom farm, and Shoshone is really doing a bang-up job. And I think, Kyle, maybe we should offer to just buy Shoshone for $800,000. What do you think?
Yeah.
Instead of burying the landfill, we could just buy the town. Might work.
Just think of what you could do with 800,000 beautification.
Really?
Instead
That's-
of putting a cap on it.
On a dump. It is disappointing. In that meeting, what we have in that meeting is we have every mayor and county commissioner, and we tried to, but those meetings go for about 4 hours, maybe a little bit longer, closer to 5. And we get a lot of things discussed, and we're really fortunate to have that. It keeps all of us mayors working together and trying to get things done across the board. I also attended the EDGE committee meeting. And the EDGE committee is really working hard, and I think we're going to get some good things done there. Last night, CWC had a men's basketball game. They scored 113 points, and the opponent, I think, was 84. And it was a really fun game, and we got to have some participants from the audience. And so we had about 120 people that were allowed in, and that was a lot of fun. As a motivation for that, occasionally I do things that somebody should watch me a little closer, but I called the governor's office today, and that's quite a process. I couldn't find the phone number, and so this morning I received a call from Cynthia Lomas's staff person out of Cody, and she asked me for a number, and I gave it to her of Kevin's, and so after I'd hung up, I thought, well, turnabout's fair play. Maybe she's got a number for the governor's office. And so I called back, and Jennifer said, well, yeah, do you want the governor's direct number? And I said, well, no, I don't want any secret numbers, but I want a number that gets to the governor. And so she said, she gave me the chief of staff's name and his email, and then she got to looking, and there was no phone number for the governor's office. So she said she'd call me right back, and she did. And I called that number, and an answering machine picked up and said because of the call volume, they were screening calls, and if you had need of a proclamation, you could dial 1. If you had a need of inviting the governor to a special event, you could dial 2. That went on for a while until it got down to if you want to talk to somebody, dial something. And so I dialed something, and a nice voice, a nice lady came on the other end, and I explained to her who I was and that I'd like to talk to the governor. And she gave me the governor's secretary, whose name was Karen. When she patched me through to Karen, as you can imagine, an answering machine picked up, and Karen was busy. And so I left a message. But before lunch, the governor called me back, and I was really surprised. And he said, before we get into the conversation, he said, you guys have a plastic manufacturing company in Riverton, don't you? And I said, we do. He said, we're having problems nationwide with a small plastic part, and I would like to talk to that individual. Would you by chance have his number? And I said, yeah, he was just in my office Monday night, and I told him that was who that was and what the name of his company was, and I gave him the phone number, and he said, thank you very much. And then we had a very pointed conversation about, first of all, that our numbers are extremely down on the COVID virus, and we're doing a really great job, and that's commendable for the county, and I appreciate the people in the county for the hard work that they're doing, and the fact that they're staying as healthy as they are. Before I made the call to the governor, we have a meeting twice a week with the county, and they decided to move those back to just once a week and move it back an hour so we could get the updated numbers. So we all hit the Zoom channel, and the host, it just kept spinning. The host never picked us up. And so I thought maybe I wasn't doing it right, so I called two of the county commissioners, and they didn't get picked up. And come to find out that the host had set up the meeting and then went on vacation and didn't turn over the host access. So we didn't have a meeting, and I wanted to know the numbers, so I called the hospital directly to John Fernelli and asked John the exact numbers and some direct questions, and came up with there's one person in the Lander Hospital under the COVID protocol. And so when I spoke with the governor, I pointed out to him very directly that I had the good fortune of going to the basketball game, and there were some participants there, but not what he had recommended, that we could have 250 participants at an indoor activity. And I told them that we were having those same problems at the high school level, the junior high level, all the schools. And we've had these requirements on us. The hospitals were not overrun. We're doing everything we can to keep Riverton working and making money, and thank goodness the citizens are out there doing that exactly. We can see that from the sales tax report, can't we? So we need to really commend the citizens of Riverton for their hard efforts and their hard work to keep their businesses open. We really do appreciate that, and we're doing everything we can do. And the governor, he said that our problem was that we didn't have a health director, and that we're having to use the state health director for all that input. And we had some pointed conversation, and I mentioned to him that his mask mandate is still on, and that the federal government has put one in for 100 days. And it seems like we put a lot of restrictions on, but we don't take a lot of restrictions off. And he said that he would, they were just meeting in the other room, and he'd go back in there and see what he could do. And so it was nice to get a conversation at that level. I appreciated the governor calling me back, and that's about all we can do. We did as much as we could. So I appreciate the efforts that Fremont County is putting out. I appreciate the efforts that the people in the city of Riverton are doing, the businesses that are working as hard as you are to stay open, and we truly do appreciate that. We appreciate the effort that the airports put out. It's kind of a movement of numbers, Kyle tells me, but Sheridan and Riverton pop up at the top of the list of emplanements in the nation, which is an odd thing in the state of Wyoming. And so who cares if the numbers aren't exactly right? It's nice that we didn't go backwards. And so there's a lot of nice things, good things happening in Fremont County. We recognize those things and we appreciate them, and we know where they come from. Mia's health report for the finances, she does a wonderful job on that. And because she does, we're able to pay attention to where our funds are. We've been able to, off this table, we bought another police car. Our police staff is fully staffed, which hasn't been the case in
30 years.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. And with good officers, I might add. It's good stuff. And we have great people in those positions. And so, are they young? Yeah, it's a young force, but we're fortunate to have them. A side note that no one ever gets any credit, Kristen has gone out and worked hard for the last 2 years, I think a little bit longer than that, trying to get the state to allow municipalities to enter their insurance pool. And she cracked that egg, and we thought she did the deed, and then the state was once again raised the ante on us and made it difficult for us to get into that. But that's what Kristen does day in and day out, and she is constantly trying to save the city of Riverton funds. And so I'll be more than glad to sign that BOA, and that's because our staff is so aggressive in trying to save money for the city of Riverton. Also, if you noticed in your staff reports, our alcohol offenses were below our traffic offenses. I think we had 14 traffic offenses and only 8 alcohol offenses. That's probably due to weather, but I still am glad to see the numbers. And so I appreciate the work that's being done. And I think it's just hard work and a business-like attitude that allows us to function and to do good work. So I appreciate the council. I appreciate staff. Does staff have anything to add?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Ernie, you got anything from the college other than we won?
Thank you, Your Honor. Ernie Over, and I'm a member of the CWC Board of Trustees. And we are presently in a negotiation with the Wyoming Association of Community College Trustees and the community college presidents on trying to put together some information for our legislators. As you know, the city might be dinged here $370,000. Well, the hit to the community colleges will be even more than that. And we have indicated that over the past 4 years, we've lost a third of our staff and a third of our funding, and there's more cuts coming down the line, and we've cut to the bone already. And what that means now is that if we have further cuts, then we're going to have to lose an arm or a leg, and we don't want to do that, because community colleges are the solution to the state's economic problem in developing a workforce. And at the college, we have just tremendous acceptance of our new Bachelor of Applied Science program. CWC is now a 4-year college, if you didn't realize that. We have that Bachelor of Applied Science program in management and leadership. We're looking at adding a couple of more soon. And, you know, the community colleges are where it's at. We have 77,000 students in Wyoming in the community college system. University of Wyoming has 14,500, something like that. Higher education is community colleges in the state of Wyoming, and we are working our darndest to try to keep from losing an arm or a leg. And we would certainly appreciate your assistance individually by contacting our legislators and letting them know that community colleges are vital to the state. You know, look what CWC means to Riverton. You know, we have a huge number of employees up there. We average about, I think it was 2,500 FTE students, which is pretty good. And you know, it's a bedrock of the community. You can look at, you know, the airport, the hospital, the school district, and the college. Those are the big four here in Riverton, and we are trying our darndest. So I would appreciate and urge every one of you to get on the horn or write a note to our county legislators in Cheyenne to remind them how important community colleges are to the state and, of course, to our region here. And I was glad to hear the Rustlers won last night. Go Rustlers.
Yep.
I've got my Rusty badge on tonight. Yeah. Any questions?
That's all great information.
All right.
That's stuff I didn't know. Thanks, Ernie.
All right, thank you.
Ernie, could I just ask, what is FTE?
Full-time equivalent students, council member.
Thank you.
Yeah, FTE. We have physical students, and then the number of credits that they all take are added up, and we divide that up, and that is your FTE, and that's what our funding is based on. It's like the average daily attendance for the school district. Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thanks. Anyone else from the audience that has anything to add? Seeing none, we stand adjourned at 8:45.